Wie geht's es Ihnen? Und willkommen am Schäfer kleines Motorinwerken und Style Lager. Today we're going to take a look at something I inherited that was abandoned and deserved to be abandoned, and what I've been able to do with it, spending some money of course, and how it came to be here. Now this is a true barn find. It is a 2005 Poulan 4018 Wild Thing chainsaw made here in Shreveport during the Electrolux home products era of Poulan weed eater. They went through several eras, believe me. 2005 model, so it's 18 years old, and I'll show you what the backstory is on it. It was stored in a barn on the ground, chainsaw in the case, but the case did not have the scabbard installed to seal up the case. Now, does that look like an inviting hole for a rat? Yes, it does. And yes, it had a rat nest in it, covered up the saw, rat poop everywhere, rat urine everywhere, pecans half eaten, acorns half eaten, trash, rat poop. It was a mess. And of course the case itself was absolutely filthy. It's been pressure washed now, as has the saw, completely disassembled and pressure washed to get it into the state that it is now. After I had steam cleaned the saw, and I can tell you it was filthy. I'm not sure it had ever been cleaned, but I took it apart, cleaned it pretty thoroughly, and it cleaned up actually better than I expected. But I'll show you some of the things that I found on it. Taking off the drive side cover, this was the sprocket on it. Now, I hope you can see that, but it is got grooves worn all the way down to the bottom of the teeth on the sprocket. This sprocket is junk. So it's going to need a new sprocket. I took the muffler off just to check out the inside of it, and the cylinder, the piston, looked great. But when I took this muffler off, this is a muffler with a catalytic converter in it. And look at the size of the outlets for the exhaust here. Two tiny little oblong openings. Now you talk about restrictive. That was obviously something, and it was going to have to be replaced. And the carburetor, I didn't even fool with trying to get this thing started with this old carb on it. These things are so cheap on the internet. I just ordered a brand new one, and it came in, and eventually I got the sprocket in, I got a muffler off of 4218, and I'll show you it. This isn't going to show up worth a hoot, but I ordered a Poulan 4218 muffler that I found used on the internet. And when I got it in, I did the same thing that I've done to the muffler on my 4218, which is to take this big exhaust opening here and bend and pry it out where it's about 2 to 2.5 times the size it was originally, and probably 4 times the size of the 2 tiny little slots on the muffler, the catalytic converter muffler that came on this thing. So that was part of the problem, or part of the solution here to see if we can make this thing run. This is the replacement carb that I ordered off the internet. And it's pretty much like the carb that came on it, except all the choke apparatus is different. This is the throttle. When you open the throttle on this, it trips the little 2-barrel carburetor that lets extra air come in to help it combust and help it purge the cylinder. Well, the replacement carb has got a wire that connects that arm. So you pull the trigger, and that's how it opens. And this carb is a little bit wider than the carb it came with. But it installed okay. I ended up doing what I'd done to one of my other Poulans. I reversed the fuel lines. The intake on the carburetor is over here, and the hole into the gas tank on this side is a big hole. So I just changed it out. Put a big piece of fuel line down through it, hooked the fuel filter up inside, and I used the small fuel line, which previously was the intake line, as the exit from the purge bowl on the other side. So I reversed the two holes in the carburetor, and hopefully it would work okay. So I also did modify the intake by drilling holes in it to get additional air into it. I've done that to my 4218, which is a 2016 model, and I can tell you, if it's not a clone of this, it'll do till a clone comes along. They are very, very similar. This says 4018, but this is actually a 42cc engine with an 18-inch blade, just like my 2016 4218 model. So I got it all back together, and the fuel lines all hooked up, and started trying to reassemble it. I put the new sprocket on, new carburetor, new everything, and trying to get this case back on top of it. Well, this carburetor is a little bit wider, and this case would just not fit. So I had to go into it and grind out a whole bunch of the plastic in here. Well, maybe not a whole bunch, but a pretty good amount, so that the case, the top cover, would fit down over the carburetor. And I eventually ground enough away that I got that to work. So I was ready then to put her all back together and see what we got. While we're putting it back together, a couple of more things came to mind. The handle was completely gone off the pull cord. I suspect a rat may have chewed that cord in two. This oil reservoir cap had been chewed to nothing, so I had to get it replaced. Easy to find on the internet. The bar, I guess it's the original bar that came on the saw. It's got some pretty good wear up here on the tip end of it, some sharp edges. I had another 18-inch bar, so I went ahead and put it on. I have not changed the chain on it yet, which looked like it had a little bit of life left in it, so I've just left it alone. Let me put the top case back on, button it up, and we'll take it outside and see if it'll run. All right, we'll fool with it, see if it wants to act right. Prime it up, choke some. Well, I'd say that is not too shabby for a 2005 chainsaw, 18 years old, and that was unrehearsed. I had not started this saw in probably 4 or 5 days, I guess, since I finished with it and put it up, but you'll notice it vibrates. It's a vibrator, but it will scream, and the muffler mod I did to it makes it considerably louder, but I can tell you, it's got plenty of punch. These are good little saws. Poulan sold 2 zillion of them. Just like their 2150, their 16-inch saw, they sold about 3 zillion of them. But these are good ones, good medium-duty saw. You can cut a lot of firewood with one of these. So I hope this video helps somebody. Thanks for watching.